Well, the cashless welfare card will continue, but only as a trial. The government appearing to have to back down to get its way on this. Keith Pitt is Resources Minister. He's also an electorate where this card is still being trialled at the moment and joins me now. Thanks for your time.
Great with you, Tom.
So it's in your electorate. Why has it been a good thing?
Well, firstly, the Bundaberg-Hervey Bay area, we've had challenges for a long time. The cashless debit card, as I've said many times, is tough but necessary policy. It has made a difference locally. That's certainly the feedback I've got from any number of people, both individuals who are on the card and, of course, those who provide those frontline services to people who are in really tough positions. So, Tom, I mean, the Labor Party's position on this has been quite simply astounding. Their option is to do nothing. I understand that it's a difficult policy, but it's necessary, it makes a difference, and that's why we continue to support.
They would be open to a voluntary one, and we just had the Shadow Minister on that. But I want to take you to your comment you just said. My feedback is, where's the evidence? If you have a trial, you want to see if something should be permanent, and maybe even rolled out across the country, you get some empirical data.
Well, firstly, there's some 10 reports on income management that's already publicly available on the Social Services website. Secondly, we have done some baseline analysis in the Hinkler trial, because the Hinkler trial is different to the other areas. We are across 4 payments. That is, of course, those individuals on New Start, a youth allowance other, and parenting payments partnered and singled, if they're 35 or under. So that is different to some of the other areas like Sejuna and like the Goldfields. But it has been successful. We continue to talk to those people who are providing frontline services because it's a day-to-day proposition for them. Now, their feedback, Tom, is straightforward. They are providing less food packages, rent rolls are being paid, and it's been strongly supported.
But we need, again, strong data on this. Rex Patrick was very open to this legislation, and he said he just couldn't get proper data on Sejuna. And indeed, there's one study that government appears to have paid for with an Adelaide university that hasn't been released.
Well, I haven't had a discussion with Senator Patrick, and as I've said, the trial in the Hinkler area is different. It is different to those other 2 sites. But in the package as well, Tom...
Can you go to percentages then? I mean, crime, domestic violence, situation for children.
Yep.
What the improvements are and what the stats are on that?
Well, once again, we've done baseline analysis through the University in South Australia. That is with social services. I can only talk about the anecdotal because that's what people talk to me about. And the anecdotal is we have more kids being fed, we have more kids being provided the basics of life, we have more people able to pay their rent, we have more people who are not spending the money on drugs and alcohol and gambling, and that's a good thing.
But we can't do policy on anecdotes.
Well, there's no doubt about any of those things. But once again, the trial site's been in place for about 2 years. This year is very challenging. Right? The pandemic has made a significant difference across the country and around the world. That has made it difficult for data because we've had a massive influx of people into the cohort. We managed to get down from around 6,000 participants from memory to around 5,000 over the period before the outbreak of COVID-19. We had youth unemployment drop from roughly 28% to under 18% over a period of months. Those things, in my view, are very positive, and the community wants us to make change.
Right, but you'd understand a senator saying, I want to see the evidence before I make this permanent. It's a serious impost on people's lives, and he doesn't have that at the moment.
Well, it is.
That's not the government, isn't it?
Well, it's also different to the Basics card, which has been in place and supported by both sides of government for many years. The Basics card is incredibly restrictive. It can only be utilised at a limited number of locations. It restricts substantially what can be purchased. The cashless debit card is new technology. In my view, it is much better. It's like trying to compare the bicycle and the Ferrari.
All right, a couple of quick other issues. Northern Australia Infrastructure Facility. I've got that one correct today.
You have indeed.
I think. Taxpayers have become investors,
correct.
Co-investors. Why? Is this just because we can't get enough schemes rolling out of the NAIF?
Not at all. I mean, $2.4 billion in investment decisions already. There's around $2.6 billion left in the fund. But we know that there is challenges.
How much has been, when you say in the fund, how much has been written? How much money written in cheques, in accounts, done?
Well, it depends on the project and what stage they're at and whether they're still looking for other finances. Well, it's as I've said, $2.4 billion in investment decisions.
That's It's different to my question, investment decisions.
Correct, but let me look at some of the projects. So North Queensland Cowboys Centre of Excellence in Townsville have drawn down their facility along with a grant that was provided by the Commonwealth and from the state. That project is near completion and should be operational in the new year. We just announced a second loan for Humpty Doo Barramundi, who have utilised the first loan, demonstrated their product and now have expanded again. This is all good news. Michelle Landry was up in the Territory talking about what's happening up there in terms of the local port facility and what will happen into the future. Over $800 million committed into the Territory.
So, okay, you're across all the detail.
Yep.
You must know the number, dollars that have gone out of the NAIF account into other accounts.
But once again, come back to the practicalities, Tom. What the Labor Party is suggesting, and in particular the Labor Senator for Queensland, whose office is at the Gold Coast and lives in inner city Brisbane, is that businesses should draw down on loans they have approved before they require, before they have to pay for anything. All that does is increase their costs. So we are committed to the NAIF, we are committed to the North, and the announcement I make this morning will allow the NAIF to make investment decisions up to $50 million in up to a $100 million project.
Is there a reason you don't want to give that figure?
Well, not at all.
What's the figure?
Well, it changes. I mean, what day was it? Yesterday, next week? It depends on what project,
what was
where
the figure
they're at.
yesterday?
But once again, it depends on the situation the project is in.
Give me a figure from any time in the last 2 months.
It's in the hundreds of millions.
Only the hundreds?
Correct.
200, 900?
Well, once again, it depends on where the project's at, what was drawn down recently, what was drawn down last week, what's required next week in terms of the project, has it rained, is the construction delayed? All of those impact when businesses need the money.
It's quite a few years of a $5 billion fund to not have hit $1 billion yet.
Well, once again, these things will come through much more quickly with those projects underway.
Okay.
However, the announcement today makes a significant difference. $50 million in equity for projects of up to $100 million. So it is up to 50. The Commonwealth will not be a majority shareholder. So effectively we'll become shareholders in these projects because we want them on the ground and delivered.
Just finally, Duke and Gorge, the inquiry there has called for a moratorium on all mining projects that threaten sacred Indigenous sites across WA until new legislation to protect them is passed. Is that a fair call?
Well, firstly, it's an interim report. The Commonwealth will obviously consider the final report and recommendations when it's completed and provide a response to that report, as we always do. I've said already that this is a regrettable outcome. We need to do better, and clearly it is across and incumbent on all governments to certainly improve the current situation.
And that's true, and so there is a willingness to do that, but in the meantime, this was a 46,000-year-old site. This measure is being suggested, so this can't happen again. Is the government open to that moratorium?
Well, once again, these are decisions for the state. Those permits are provided by the state government under their legislation. I know that they are reviewing their processes, as they've stated publicly. We know that Rio Tinto has made statements already. It's a clearly...
But the federal government will have a view on this.
Once again, Tom,
it will affect the country and the mining industry.
We have an interim report from a committee which has done significant amounts of work and has more to do. They'll be in a position, my understanding is that they will provide that report later next year, to which we will respond.
So you haven't formed a view yet on that moratorium?
Well, it was released overnight. I've obviously read some of the recommendations in the interim report, and I'll look forward to having further discussions with those involved.
We might discuss it again next year.
Well, here's hoping.
Enjoy your break.
Great to be with you. Have a great Christmas.
Keith Pitt, thank you.